Did you know that in the early 20th century, a child with meningitis had a 10% chance of surviving? That number has now increased all the way up to 90% thanks to antibiotics. It's no wonder that the people who witnessed the introduction of penicillin, the first antibiotic, called it a miracle drug. That's not the end of the story though. Since the 1940s, we've been locked in an arms race with bacterial pathogens, and it plays out like this. We develop a new antibiotic, but then they become resistant to that antibiotic, which forces us to develop another one, which they then become resistant to as well. In order to de-escalate this resistance crisis, we all need to become caretakers for these miracle drugs through antibiotic stewardship. And this extends all the way to the dairy farm. Now on dairy farms, the disease that contributes by far the most to antibiotic use is mastitis, which is the infection of the mammary gland. And one of the cornerstones of mastitis control is dry cow therapy, which is the use of antibiotics at the end of the cow's lactation. We've seen substantial improvements in cow health and milk quality over the past decades thanks to dry cow therapy. But one of the problems with this approach is that farmers don't have a practical way to distinguish between the cows that genuinely need these miracle drugs and the cows that are healthy. And so they're forced to take a pragmatic approach to just treat the whole herd. But I think we can do better than this. The central hypothesis of my PhD research is that with the right screening tests, farmers can make this distinction and just treat the cows that need to be treated at dry-up. But you do need to have an accurate test to be able to achieve this, because if you don't, then the wrong cows will be treated and the health of the herd will suffer. Now my PhD research is specifically looking at two approaches to dry cow therapy, a culture-based approach and an algorithm-based approach. In the culture-based approach, milk is collected on farm and then cultured, and that determines which cows are treated at dry-up. In the algorithm-based approach, herd data are used by the farm computer in an algorithm to determine which cows are treated. This is kind of similar to the way that Facebook uses your browsing history to determine what ads randomly pop up in your feed. We recently put these two approaches to the test in a clinical trial on 6 dairy farms here in the United States. We compared them to the traditional whole herd treatment approach, and we found that we're able to reduce antibiotic use by 55% without any negative impacts on cow health or productivity. These findings indicate that farmers can reduce their antibiotic use just using these simple and practical tools for management at dry-up. We hope that farmers will be inspired to implement these practices on their farms in order to reduce their antibiotic use and improve antibiotic stewardship in the dairy industry. Thank you.